books. And first, I'm going to recommend a book because a lot of what I'm talking about today is coming out of this particular book. It is called Your Best Stride by Jonathan Beverly. It's a really excellent book. There are other very good books that are along the same lines, but I think what I like about this one in particular is that I don't want to say that it's dumbed down, but he gets into a lot of really biomechanical stuff that he does just an excellent job explaining that even in my little head makes some sense. So if you're interested in improving your stride and your mechanics, I think this book is well worth the read. But as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about your arms today. And of course, he talks about the arms. It's like maybe 3 pages worth in the book because it's a big, thick book. But the arms are very important. Why are your arms so important? Well, your legs follow your arms. Maybe you've been to a track meet and you've heard somebody yelling at the end of the track meet, use your arms because the legs are getting tired. But when they pump those arms, they'll gain more speed because your legs will follow your arms. So your elbows are really the part of your arm that you want to be thinking the most about and what's going on with your elbows. So some cues for you, some things to think about with those arms is you should be driving your elbow back. It should drive back. There's a couple different cues that you can use to think about what does it mean to drive your elbow back. One would be imagine that your significant other was behind you and they just made a smart aleck comment. You kind of want to jab them in the back. So that's that drive, the kind of that snap of the elbow back. The other is think of the wild, wild west and pretend that perhaps you're a gunslinger and you're like this and you've got the guns at your waist. You can't see my waist, but you can imagine. And when you draw that gun, again, it's that snapping action, although I came out because I'm sitting in a chair and I don't want to whack the back of the chair, but your elbow should come back. So your drive, and this drive, I should be honest, is easier to get when you're running fast. It's a little bit more difficult when you're doing your long, slow runs. But when you're doing that faster work, that elbow should have kind of a snap back. So think about elbowing somebody, or again, think about the wild, wild west, and you are drawing that gun. Your hands should be, largely invisible is another thing that you're looking for. So a really common problem with most runners is overstriding. And one way to tell if you're overstriding is going to be your hands. So assuming you've got good posture, I'm not talking about looking down, but you're running tall and your gaze is forward, you should barely catch some glimpses of your hands in your peripheral vision. The more you can see your hands, the more an indication that your hands are way out in front. The farther your hands out in front, because your legs follow your arms, the more likely it is that you're overstriding. So look for those invisible hands. You should catch a little glimpse in your peripheral vision, but by and large, you shouldn't see them. And the last thing is a drill that they have in the book. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm going to try it. And to do that, you need some type of a pole. It could be a broomstick, PVC pipe. This one happens to be 1 inch. They recommend 1/2 inch. But what you do is you tuck this into the crook of your arm, and you would run like this, maybe for only 1/2 mile, 3/4 mile. But the idea being you can't get too far forward, so it restricts you from getting too far forward. Notice my hands are hitting my waistband, and that's another cue you can look for when you're running, is that your hands should be grazing your waistband as they're going back and forth, not like this, but straight back and forth. But give the pipe a try and stick that in the arms. But the bottom line is, arms are something we don't pay much attention to. Really, we're talking about elbows, but they're very, very important to your running, and you can use them to help you become a better runner.